Well, once again, the Pittsburgh Penguins very much outplayed their opponent. Once again, the Pittsburgh Penguins allowed a goal with the extra attacker on the ice, giving up a late lead. Once again, the Penguins failed to capitalize on glorious opportunities in overtime. And once again, the Pittsburgh Penguins squandered a lead, failed to win it back, and lost in a shootout. The Penguins lose to the Anaheim Ducks 4-3. There, I'll leave that in. It's kind of fitting for the night. The Penguins lose 4-3 in the shootout to Anaheim. I do have the score sheet. But it's fitting I'm doing this by a garbage can because that's where the score sheet really belongs tonight. It had no bearing on the final score. The Penguins outshot Anaheim 48-28. Penguins had 8 shots in overtime, some glorious opportunities. They had 40 in regulation. They kept playing and kept playing. But there were a couple of big issues that we have to dig into. So settle in. We're going to kind of flush all of them out here in the post game with the moving camera. There. I'm trying it in a different spot tonight because I know they're out on the ice as well. So Dan Muse and the locker room and the assistant coaches, they were good and well disgusted Tuesday. As well they should have been. There were a few extra utterances and mutters coming off the ice and heading to the dressing room. This was probably the first time that Muse was a little bit curt in his post game. He wasn't, maybe as expansive as he's been in the past. He was upset too. The players obviously disgusted. Erik Karlsson is like, it can't happen. There's 17 seconds to go. We're on a power play. We win the faceoff and they score. That can't happen. We know we're a good team, so on and so forth. Let's break down the game-tying play as Anaheim gets a goal with 0.1 seconds remaining. And it was a play, the Penguins were on the power play, don't forget. Anaheim gets to pull their goalie in the final seconds, a sprint, because the face-off, the puck goes into the offensive zone for the Penguins. And the defensive breakdowns, just one after the other. The puck sails over Sidney Crosby, tried to hold it at the blue line. It was 8-10 feet in the air, so he can't cut it off the blue line. That happens. But then you have Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson on the ice in the final 17 seconds, really. Brian Rust contacts Beckett Seneca. Chris Letang, though, thinks it's a loose puck or simply turns to play the puck, turns his shoulders, and in the process, Beckett just walks him. So now, Anaheim is going to the net. 5, 4, 3. Erik Karlsson, instead of making a simple stick check or even body on body, goes to the ice, head first into goalie Arturs Shilov's. Okay, Shilov's actually makes the first save, but then Karlsson kind of slaps the puck into the net. 0.1 seconds to go. The Penguins were that close to winning. Now overtime comes. The Penguins dominate overtime, 8 shots. That's extraordinary. Don't put any in the net. Shootout. Well, you know what happens in a shootout with the Penguins. Now, I have not asked Dan Muse this question because whenever you ask Muse a question that includes the past, it's kind of an easy exit ramp for him to say, I'm not concerned about the past. But it is germane in this case. Going back to the start of last season, the Penguins were 1-6 last year in the shootout. They're now 0-5 this season. So if you combine that, in the last 110 games, they're 1-11 when the game goes to the shootout. In fact, they're 1-7 when the game goes to extra time this year. If the Penguins were just mediocre in extra time, if they had only 3 wins of the 7 opportunities, they'd be in first place. 4 of 7, they'd be in first place in the Metro Division. Realize that. I'm in everybody's way down here. Getting the. Okay, well, here we'll put a hand up. But the Penguins would be in first place. Isn't that crazy? So there's that. Arturs Sheloffs after the game said, "Listen, Leo Carlsson, that was a great move. What am I going to do? We didn't score any goals." And that part is true as well. The Penguins were 5 for 25 in their last 25 shootout attempts. Tonight they go 5. Now they're 5 for 28. Let's do that. I probably won't do it in this location again, but we're already 6 minutes into it. Bear with me. So the Penguins are not scoring. Tommy Novak zonked, Sidney Crosby stuffed again. Ville Koivunen, the only Penguins shooter to use speed, but he goes flying in on Ville Husso and just kind of chunks it at the goalie. Didn't really make a good shot or a good move. He just went flying in, kind of crazy. And 0 for 3 were the Penguins. So at this point, there's not a whole lot that Dan Muse can do to practice. You can't really do any more video work for the shootout. That's been done. And the Penguins are still bricking these attempts. Now, what actually has to happen? Sam Poulin is with the team. He has a great shootout percentage down in Wilkes-Barre. The best shootout player in the organization is probably, at least from what I've seen with my own eyes, Tristan Brose. He's got some filthy moves. Maybe he can teach a few. Maybe he just has to be on the NHL roster. But maybe it's time for Sidney Crosby to watch the shootout. Maybe it's time for Chris Letang not to be in the shootout, or Brian Rust, the players that Muse has gone to over the last 5 shootouts that the Penguins have indeed lost. So there's that component. Now, the other component, and I know you're frustrated about it, was Muse's decision to have Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson on the ice in the final 15 seconds. Now, here's Muse's defense of that. Now, I know what you're thinking, and plenty of the people in the media room thought the same thing. I'm going to hold my fire for a moment here. Obviously, you're 2 offensive defensemen in a defensive situation. But as Muse pointed out, well, those 2 play in all situations anyway. Also, puck possession in that moment was entirely significant. If the Penguins possess the puck off the faceoff, they're going to be pressured. And Muse wanted good sticks, good offensive instincts, because, to sidestep the forecheck, to be able to move the puck, to get it out of trouble. If they can do that, the goalie doesn't come out, the Penguins win. Kind of makes sense. It didn't happen that way, and the Penguins were forced to defend. And as we mentioned, Letang gets walked. Karlsson, that's not how you're supposed to play it. So I don't think Dan Muse would make the same decision again in the future. I think seeing what he saw, knowing what he just learned Tuesday, I think he might do things a little bit differently. Okay, so there's all of that. Let's actually talk about several of the good things that indeed happened Tuesday. The third line, Kindle, McGroarty, Koivunen. Again, they were great, actually. They had No line had more shot attempts. I think the Kindle line and the Crosby line each had 21 shot attempts. Kindle's line had the most scoring chances, 15. Kindle's line had the most high danger scoring chances, 6. Kindle's line allowed the fewest high danger chances, 0. So the Penguins, what they did, dominated. If you look at natural stat trick, it was an actual domination that they did. But it doesn't matter when you got that score sheet. And they really do have to figure out a way to close out these games. There's also Tommy Novak, second straight really strong game besides Sidney Crosby. Has he found a home? I'm not prepared to write it in stone after 2 games. But Novak on the left wing, it's bringing out the very best in his game. I mean, the very best. He's playing on the walls. He's playing creatively. He's dishing the puck. He's taking shots. I mean, he is or was passing up a lot of shots this season. He's taking them now. Goals in consecutive games. 7 points in the last 5 games. He's playing a very good game. He played a very honest game with Sidney Crosby. Crosby's dragging him into the zone, or Novak's dragging. Either way, it's kind of working. It really is, and that opens up a Pandora's box of possibilities for General Manager Kyle Dubas as Rickard Rakell returns to health somewhere in the next 2 to 3 weeks, presumably. We'll leave that one open-ended. All right, so the shootout woes continue. The lost lead woes continue. What else do you want me to tell you? And yet the Penguins looked pretty darn good against a first-place team for the second straight game, too. All right, that's it. From the wrong spot here at PPG Paints Arena, I'm Dan Kingerski. Have fun.